You're listening to The Watchers, a show where I'm just going to say three women from parts of New Jersey have a little chat. That's what's happening this week. Close the year out. We told listeners last week that we had a fun guest. We didn't say who the guest was, but we are going to be counting down our year with Tara Jean Caspro, who is one of my favorite people on the internet. She's behind a fantastic Substack called XOXO Gossip Jean Caspro. I said that as if it's the first time I've ever heard it or read it before, but I think we've actually talked about it on the podcast, Jodie. We may have mentioned one of my favorite essays of 2024, where Tara breaks down your Muppet Big Three. I'm going to let her talk all about that, but I do think it'll be familiar to our listeners already. Tara, thank you so much for being here.
Shalom. I love it. I'm a surprise guest as if I'm anyone. Usually the surprise guest is like a Josh Gad or like a
Josh
like
Gad
an
is next
Adam
week.
Callie, some kind of like New York improv-y type person.
We did have Josh Gondelman.
Yeah, we did have a Josh G.
Okay, literally like that's the type of person that you imagine as like the super secret surprise guest, so that it's me is like a big ass honor. But yes, hi everyone. I'm so honored to be the super secret surprise guest with a disgusting upper respiratory infection that has wreaked havoc on my sweet little throat. And you will hear me gagging and snarling like some kind of fucking Super Mario Brothers villain character. Not even like one of the big ones, just one of the little like NPC type little guys in there. And you will hear that during the show. I am so sorry about that in my disgusting throat.
You're so fine. Yeah, I was gonna say, I think I'm just generally sniffy and unwell during the winter months. I have a weak constitution, and Jodie is also battling something. So I
started getting sick yesterday.
Oh, I can hear it now.
Yeah, it's there.
But we're gonna power through because
we are.
As I mentioned, all three of us are from Jersey. So,
and two of us.
Let's get it out of the way. I'll just
okay. So Hasbrook Heights.
I am from Hasbrook Heights. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Because when Andrea told me that, I said, "Oh, good, she's not from the rich part of Bergen County."
Oh, fuck no! I'm not one of your Allendale. You're like
where? Allendale, yeah. No, well, see, yeah. I went to Glen Rock High School, but I grew up in Saddlebrook, and so when I moved to Glen Rock, I was like, "This place is weird."
Ooh.
So I consider myself from both, but I grew up in Saddlebrook.
Okay.
We're all going to get into our lists, but on my list anyway, whether you were here or not, Tara, would be Who's Your Muppet Big Three. So I love it so much.
We've discussed this at length.
Jodie and I are both, I'm such a Muppets obsessive. Mm-hmm. You published this back in July and it blew up. Wow. It's actually weirdly, so you and I have been mutual follows for a while.
Yes.
But another very weird Jersey thing is that you and I officially met because you were a guest on a podcast that I produce that has nothing to do with Jersey. I had nothing to do with the booking. My host, so it's a podcast called This Changes Everything, hosted by Sarah Rice. And reached out to, she's the best. She reached out to you.
Yeah. Someone must have sent her. So this guy, Matt Storrs, who I am friends with, took my Substack essay and made a TikTok about it. And the TikTok, even though I'm joking, I do like him. He's like 75 years older than me. He's the one who went viral on TikTok,
of course,
the youth's medium. And it went mega. It has like 1 million+ views. It's crazy. I've experienced nothing like this in my life. And someone must have tagged Sarah in that. She commented, I saw who it was. I was like, oh, I know who she is. Wow. Okay. And because I have no confidence or self-esteem, like none. My therapist is like, you have the least self-esteem of any patient I've ever worked with.
You're I'm like, and I win.
Cool. Yeah. I'm like, I win. That's my validation that I have no self-esteem. The one thing I am like very big dicked at is that I will be like, hey, put me on your show. Hey, I want to come do this.
I'm really learning that every one of our guests that ends up being a point of conversation of like, you just have to ask. Like,
worst they're going to say is no.
Right.
They're not going to like, Sarah was not going to boycott me from being on any other podcast because I was like, do you want to talk about this on your show? I saw that she's got a cool platform. I like her background. I like what she does now. And I was like, do you want to have a guest to come talk about this? And she was like, yes. and we set this up. And then I realized that you were involved. And I was like,
so
oh my
funny.
God, we finally get to connect as people. And then and I love that you did this because
I never do this.
It's about
Tara,
asking.
I'm a professional producer. This is not something I typically do. I busted into that episode.
I followed you on Instagram because I was told that you were like the producer in this area.
That's so funny.
You are such a phenomenal producer and that behind the scenes coordinator that I look out for talent that I can recommend to other people. And I literally was like, I want to follow you because if any of my friends start a podcast or they need a producer, I want to have someone to recommend.
That's so nice.
So you have a fantastic reputation.
Oh, heck.
So I was excited to collaborate.
She hates this part, by the way.
I'm having a terrible time.
Thank you. I told you guys off camera, I just got a lip flip for the first time, like the Botox they shoot in your lips so you don't have like the white people curl under Nosferatu smile. And I hate it. I regret doing it because I can't like drink out of straws. I can't spit toothpaste out. Because I'm not used to using this part of my mouth. And anytime I spit toothpaste out, it goes like up into my fucking nose. And it's been like 2 weeks. Amazing. I should be used to this. And I can't kiss anything, let alone your ass or your booty hole. So I'm not saying this just because you put me on this show. I literally you have a huge reputation in this area and beyond as being a really professional host. And I was like, I hope Andrea joins this conversation. And I didn't know if that was like professional on my part to like bring up the producer. And then you jumped in. I was like, oh, thank God. Good. Because there are 3 people in that room. So I was like, let's all have this. And you were such a great addition to that. And then it didn't surprise me later that I learned that you also have your own podcast. And I was like, good. Okay, let's go on that. let's chat more. But yeah, no, it was great. If you want me to talk about this Muppets thing that I did. So I was talking to this cute guy, which I wrote in the essay as a little like framing device for it. And I was thinking of date questions because I recently got out of a 6-year-long engagement. So I'm like, I have not been dating in a long time. And I'm like, what the hell do I say? Where do I put my hands? When do I put my hands on the guy? When do I not? Like, what do I do? What do I do with my hands and my stupid mouth? Because I'm Italian and those 2 things are connected at all times.
Of course.
And I said, what about like, what's your Muppets big 3? And it just made sense to me as it was coming out of my stupid mouth with my stupid fucking Italian hand gestures. And I was like, this is a smart idea. I want to write about this on Substack. I wanted to write less about my, like Tolstoyan terrible story of what happened to me this year, worst year of my life. So I've been trying to write more pop culture, funny things. And I was like, this is a good melt of like where I'm at right now and pop culture that I love. The Muppet Big 3 is your Big 3 zodiac. So for example, I'm a Cancer sun, a Sagittarius moon, and a Leo rising. And I wanted to think of a different way to frame that to make it more accessible to people who don't care about astrology, who think they're above it, who want to know more about it. And I was like, okay, well, what 3 Muppets are you based on your sun being like what you were assigned by birth and kind of your vital essence, your moon being how you perceive yourself internally, and your rising of how others perceive you. And I came up with mine, which I shared with Andrea on the last podcast that we did together. But I am a Rizzo sun, like small, brunette, fleefy, Italian from New Jersey, loves a backwards cap, loves a slice of pizza, the comic relief at all times. Again, a lot of hand gestures, big family. That's me. That's Rizzo, neurotic, like an Italo Woody Allen, but no stepchildren, and thank God. I am a Camilla moon because when I'm at home, I'm like nesting with my 2 little chickens, my cat children. Again, small and fleefy, always white, loves a man with a giant schnoz, loves Harry Styles, which Gonzo is the Harry Styles prototype.
Totally.
Like that's like Gonzo took the substance and Harry Styles jumped out. And that is me, my quieter little clucking phase when I'm just alone and on my own. And then I'm a piggy rising because you've heard me talk at you guys already for like 45 minutes. And you're like, oh, yeah, big hair, fucking loud, coarse mouth, total bulldozer, and loves emotionally unavailable slimy men, such as Kermit Da Frog. Or I thought his name as a kid was Kermit D Frog, as if his name was like Kermit Devondrius Frog. I thought it was D Frog. Yeah, Kermit Devondrius Frog is what I call him. That's his legal name. And it wound up taking off because Matt Stores, my comedian friend, went on TikTok and took my idea. And as I razzed him about, bastardized it a little because he just made it what your favorite three Muppets say about you.
It's not the same thing.
He was so supportive of me coming in and being like, hey, actually, this is my thing. And like, here's the deal. Because he credited me and he let me kind of, jump in the comments and like help explain to people what my original prompt was. And he was so supportive and like, he could not have been more complimentary to me and like really wanted me to share in that success that he had with this TikTok. And that's how like Sarah found me. And yeah, it really was like the big thing that I was involved in this year. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been fun engaging with people who tell me what their kids' big threes are, their big threes. Again, these are some people who know nothing about astrology or thought it was stupid. And now they have this avatar for expressing their inner selves.
I love it too, because like, I'm somebody who I think astrology is fun. I have my star sign on my wrist. So like, I pay attention, but I don't like believe in it. What I like about this is it's more self-selective. Like you really get to kind of like explore who you are. And it genuinely has taught me about myself a little more than I expected. And I think Jodie even more so, maybe. Jodie's been reckoning, I think, with some things.
Yeah, Jodie, can you tell me more about yours? I know you said you guys have talked about this a lot, but I would love to know yours.
I'm similar to Andrea. I'm interested in astrology. I was more interested in it when I was in college, but I'm not like an obsessive. So I started thinking about it. And I started out one way and then I flopped two of them. So I think what I've come to is that I am this is so embarrassing. I am a Sam the Eagle Sun. I am a Rolf Moon and a Janus Rising. And I am in therapy to try to flop Sam the Eagle and Janus, like to become a Janus Sun.
What is your personal beef with you being a Sam the Eagle Sun?
The rigidity, the not being able to be chill and flexible, even though I'm literally an art teacher. Like I come off and I'm an artist and I'm much more chill than I used to be, but like there's a little child in me that's like, I can't do that. I can't get my hands dirty. Oh my God. Like everything has to be a certain way. And like, so, I've accepted that I have some Sam the Eagle in me. But I'm trying to cultivate more of a Janus in my interior as well as my exterior, because my exterior reads as Janus. But
when I busted into the Sarah episode, it's because I said, like, I'm learning a lot about myself and talking to other people. For example, I am surrounded by Sam the Eagles. Like,
you mentioned that, yeah.
I don't know what it is, but
who
I think
else in your life is a Sam the Eagle?
Kitsy's a Sam. So Kitsy's my housemate who I live with.
That's why I like them so much.
My best friend Alex is a Sam. Like, my partner Daniel has a little Sam in him. I think his wife is 100% a Sam. Like, I am surrounded by Sams.
By Sams.
Interesting.
I'm also surrounded by Aries. All of those people I listed, except for you, Jodie, are also all Aries.
Yeah. No.
Wow.
That's interesting. Yeah. No, I'm mostly surrounded by Libras in my daily life, which I am also. But yeah, no, I think
so interesting.
I started thinking about it.
Can I ask about your Rolf Moon? Like, where did that come from? Where did you find that when you were doing this assessment?
So I kind of feel like I was looking for sort of a soft-hearted, like, supporting character type.
Okay, yeah.
And Rolf is as close as I could come. If I really wanted to get into the nitty-gritty of it, and leave the main Muppet Show and go to Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas,
You're welcome to.
then I could have gone to Wendell. But
Yeah.
but
yeah. Oh, have you even? I love that.
yeah,
That's welcome. Like, as
Yeah.
the creator of this, which I say in quotes, and I'm doing like the jerk off motion as I say it, because I am not Jim Henson. I am not a Henson. I wish I was. But I think it's welcome. Like, people put,
but no one knows who the fuck Wendell is. Like, so
but you do.
I do.
It's about you. It's not supposed to be. This whole thing for me was, instead of taking a BuzzFeed quiz and an algorithm computing what you are, I want you to do that deep work and show your work of, this is what I feel I am. I want to learn about myself. So if you were really like, this is Wendell, I feel like this is my, like, I picked Camilla, who is not a character who has lines or really has like a big personality. She is like Gonzo's girlfriend. But to me, she is so much more than that, because I just love her. I always have. But yeah, I'm open to people who said Oscar the Grouch. I'm open to people who said Fraggle Rock. I'm like, Dark Crystal, whatever the fuck you want, go for it. But you can be Wendell. That's fine with me, the creator of this. Yeah, but I just wanted people to take that chance to define themselves and ask, okay, are there, because Muppets, as I said on Sarah's podcast too, like, they're all about your beautiful flaws and how those flaws make, the group needs those flaws. You need the anxious Kermits. You need the screams internally Kermit, who's also a great leader, but takes too much on. And you need your Piggy, who's the one who will bust through the door like the Kool-Aid man and get shit done, but has to learn something about honoring other people's boundaries. Like, you need each part. So if you're Wendell and you're like, what's up? I'm an otter. I'm a guy. Then be Wendell.
He's just a little guy.
Be a little guy.
He's just
Camilla's
a sweet little guy.
I'm a Rizzo and a Camilla. I got fleefy little guys all over my chart. You're welcome to join me in that beautiful pond. Let's go. Take a dip.
I like the contrast between like thinking about what other people see, especially in my current role, versus like the
Well, I said
Andrea's is perfect also.
Well, I said I was gonna. I don't know if I said this out loud. I was thinking, I was like, how much of Tara being so nice to me can I cut and still keep the integrity of the conversation? But I'm gonna leave it, because you talking like I'm Fozzie's son 100%. Like,
yes, you are.
Like this is a Fozzie bear. I am also 100% a Gonzo moon, like weird little Aquarius. So you said, I was like, Harry Styles is also an Aquarius. He's a February Aquarius, but I won't hold that against him. But a weird little alien. I have like stuff just to get a little. I have like stuff I don't know about my family. Like, I feel very connected with Gonzo. But then my rising is Scooter. Like, you describing my role as a producer feels so different, like what people see for sure through this little screen, but is not how I am behind closed doors at all. Like, that's just how I am, like, out and about with the world and the role that I
capitalist output that it doesn't necessarily have to define you at all. And that's a useful lesson. Like, this is who I am, but also like the people who love me that I really let in know my mess.
Right, exactly.
Like, they know my mess and they accept that mess, and I need to accept that mess too. And that lets you kind of reconcile yourself with the parts of your sun or moon that you maybe don't love or want to challenge or improve. Like, that's why this is a useful tool.
Totally.
So yeah, I love that you were able to do that. I always say fearless moral inventory. I mean, that's literally part of AA and recovery work, but like, this to me also feels as much aligned with recovery work and deep psychology as it does cute pop culture-y, astrology, cosmopolitan quiz stuff.
Yeah. I'm going to recommend folks go listen to your conversation with Sarah, because you talk a lot about how, like, what a useful tool it is. And like, to be able to put, I don't know if we said this on mic, but it's something I've been thinking about, to be able to put a little distance, to be like, for me to be able to be like, I'm like Gonzo because, and then talk about myself, but to have that little buffer in between is really helpful.
Well, the thing that I said to you over text, Andrea, is that Sam the Eagle is the result of trauma and Janice is the goal of therapy.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. I love that so much.
Because he has to be in control of everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's that, as you said, that like stringent, hard view, but deep inside that comes from fear, anxiety, wanting to create something stable to center yourself. And so you cling to what feels certain. And Conclave this year talked about that a lot. Like certainty is this terrible thing and we need to have more doubt and mystery in our lives. So Sam the Eagle sons out there, watch Conclave.
So speaking of watch Conclave.
Yeah, should we start talking? A nice segue there.
I would happily just talk with you about the Muppets forever, but we did give you some homework, and Jodie and I have also done some homework. So we're gonna not count down. I didn't put mine in order. I don't know if anybody else
I did not. No.
Okay, great. So first we're gonna start with some stuff that, like, I have a little list of things that I loved this year, but were either already talked about on this podcast or others, or like, yes, accurately acclaimed, all the hype you've heard, I agree with, that kind of thing.
Or like little things that don't need a whole segment.
Exactly. So I don't have a ton. Maybe for these, we'll just handle it rapid fire.
Okay.
Jodie, do you want to start with your, like, what do we want to call this? Like, I was going to say honorable mentions, but that's not right.
It feels like that. Okay. Honorable mentions. Yeah. They're the things that, we're not going to talk about for an extended period of time, but were small, delightful things in our year.
Small delights.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, my first one is Matt Rogers as Brad Turbo on Love It or Leave It. Matt Rogers has a recurring character on Love It or Leave It that is a hyper masculine, but very sensitive, closeted bodybuilder, something or other, and it's one of the funniest characters that is on that show regularly. And I've taken a break from a lot of the political stuff that I was listening to for obvious reasons, but Brad Turbo, I hope he returns. Matt Rogers is amazing. So that's one of my little delights for the year. So my second one is the official podcast of the Alone show on History Channel. Andrea's heard me talk about this. It's a survivalist television show that I have no reason to like, but I do. It's like a secret anti-capitalist show. It doesn't mean to be, but it is, because everyone on it is on it because there's a financial prize and they all have family members who need healthcare and things like that. And it's a show where super macho men go to fall apart in the woods and cry. And then, like, women who are derogatorily looked at as like, hippies and unserious tend to outlast them. It's not a show I should like, but I'm actually recommending the podcast that goes along with it because they just started doing one last year and it's actually great. It's run by two of the people that aren't the like toxic, survivalist types. I'm enjoying, I actually did not care for this season as much as previous seasons, but I watched it because I like the podcast. And then I'll give one more. The episode of Working It Out with Hannah Gadsby from a few months back. There is a section of that podcast that I clipped because it made me laugh so hard that I wanted to listen to it multiple times. And I sent it to my niece because I thought she would love it too. I like that podcast in general, but he and Hannah Gadsby have a really great rapport. And then I just want to shout out my top movie of the year. We've talked about this before. I re-listened to last year's version of this, and I remember saying I'm not like a movie person, which I'm not. I'm more of a TV person, but Chasing Amy was my top movie of the year. We're not going to talk about it because we did a whole episode on it.
And we talk about it every week.
Yeah.
Anyway, it always comes up.
I managed to bring up Sav Rogers and his movie every week, but
yeah,
it is now available on VOD. So it's a good chance for me to shout it out one more time. And that's it. I think I have probably a couple others, but those are my little guys.
Love that. Tara, you're next.
Okay. I have as just some little fun moments in media this year. Very specifically, the Bodyguard set fan cam for Hitman. It is Beyonce's bodyguard played over several shots of Glenn Powell as Ron in Hitman. And I have watched this a lot this year. It's about 42 seconds of a man with a little Carol Brady flip, looking real hot in a leather jacket and some aviator sunglasses. And did it get me through the worst year of my life? Maybe so. Also, Jonathan Bailey doing the little horse dismount in Wicked, where he just clicks up his little heels and lands on the ground with a flourish.
Perfect.
Again, did it help me through my year? Yes, it did. Did I giggle out loud in the theater when I saw that moment? Yes, I did. Yeah, I wrote a big ass list. Also including Glenn Powell's t-shirt and Twisters. A lot of Glenn Powell this year. God bless that man. A good friend of mine said not long ago, she's like, I think you could pull Glenn Powell. And I was like, that's the nicest thing anyone has ever said to me in my human entire life. Like, I don't look like it now, but maybe with the lip flip. And once I get makeup back on after this week of being sick, maybe the lip flip is what does it.
That's going to be the
Glenn
thing
Powell
that does it.
on your vision board for 2025.
That would be the only thing on my vision board. just his face and like a stack of money and like there's got to be one of I don't know. I don't even know what the other things would be. That's all I need. Glenn Powell and like give me some money and I'm good.
Perfect.
The Casey Musgraves album, the newest album she put out, Deeper Well, Cardinal, it's a beautiful album. She really just did that thing. Soft Stevie Nicks. Just beautiful. And introspective. Like she really, the lyrics to Deeper Well alone, I was listening to as I was leaving a relationship, and I really needed to hear those lyrics. And it's so cheesy. Like, this really spoke to me, but it did.
Not cheesy. Not here. Not here. Yeah.
That's one. The Girls of Love Island this year, this year's season of Love Island, they had this amazing group of women and they were supportive of each other and it was a diverse group and they just really held each other down in this very isolated space. And you saw women say, no, this is suspicious. You're not crazy for thinking this. He's crazy for doing this. And we're going to tell you that you're being manipulated, or we're going to tell you that there's better for you. It was so warm to watch. And every week that I watched, I was like, wow, these girls really, and the one who's like the ringleader, Olivia, Liv, 21 years old, this beautiful, like 5'11" Australian Barbie. And she's the one at 21 years old. She's like, nah, he's full of shit. He's full of shit. Like, don't listen to him. And she left the show without a guy.
That rules.
She was so independent and funny and kind. And like, it really made me feel so good about women. And I mean, I'm an ardent feminist. I am the type like Saoirse Ronan, like women, like that is me. But I was like, wow, these women really have each other's backs. And, you know, in my relationship falling apart this year, I needed a lot of that validation from my friends, and the ones who gave it to me and read very long screenshotted videos of like 47 texts between me and this guy got me through. Like those are the people that got me through. So if you are looking for feel good reality TV to binge right now, this new season of Love Island, really beautiful, amazing girls who really, the season was the love story between these women unfolding.
That.
Or more than them and the fuck ass dudes that they were chasing on this island.
Did you ever watch F-Boy Island? The Nikki Glaser hosted one?
No, I haven't seen it. Should I?
It's almost a parody of itself, but that is the thing I liked about it, is the women on it were just constantly helping each other out. Like if they heard anything, if they were suspicious of one of the guys, it was like they were a team at like ferreting out all of the bullshit. So
it was, you would love this season of Love Island if you haven't seen it. That was to me the whole story of the season. And now all of these girls are doing like commercials and sponsored content together, and they're like, taking off in these beautiful ways. And every time I see one of them on Instagram post a photo, it's all of those other girls like, yes, star, I love you, beautiful. I love that you chose the outfit that I suggested. Like, they're very clearly real friends and like texting each other and holding each other up as they get all this new attention. But that was a beautiful little thing this year. And a couple movies I liked that aren't my full features, but like I had a lot of fun watching Alan Ritchson and his stupid little fucking glasses in Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. A big, dumb movie for guys, but I love a boy movie more than anything. I'm like, Alan Ritchson in that movie with his tight, like XXS Henleys on his 4XL beautiful perfect body with his little tiny glasses and his little hats and his Swedish accent. Best performance of the year. Woman of the Hour, the Anna Kendrick movie, I really thought was a great true crime story through the lens of a woman. And there were so many things that movie could not have not been directed by a woman. There were so many things where I was like, yes, that is how the situation would unfold. That is how a woman would react in this moment. She did a great job. And The Substance, obviously. Love Lies Bleeding, obviously. Rose Glass is such a fantastic director. I trust everything she does. If I hear it's Rose Glass directed, I'm like, I'm seated. And what else? Oh, the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City confrontation dinner. Because that did again, this is the worst year of my life and like the longest year of my life. I can't believe that. Receipts, proof, timelines, screenshots. I can't believe that happened this year. But it was, as someone who has seen like every Bravo show except the Vogue shows, it was one of the top Bravo moments ever.
Beautiful. Nice. That's a perfect list. That's exactly the kind of stuff I was hoping for. I've got a few. I think I said last year my goal was to watch and read and like listen to more things, even if it's not for a podcast, and I didn't do a great job of that. But I'm going to try again for 2025. So over on New Jersey is the World, RIP. We started a short-lived book club, and I loved everything we read for it. But I tried to include, I tried to not include anything I've already covered somewhere, except because we've been doing documentaries. We read an oral history that I loved that felt like if they made a documentary about this, it would have been my favorite documentary of the year. And it's called I Don't Want to Go Home, The Oral History of the Stone Pony. It's by Nick Corsiniti, who's a New York Times journalist. It's really like just beautifully put together oral history of Asbury Park, specifically the Stone Pony, but it's really about Asbury Park. It's so good. I loved it. It's, like I said, really well researched, really fun, really, there's a lot, as someone who's like pretty obsessed with Bruce and the Stone Pony and Jersey in general, I learned a lot, which I wasn't necessarily expecting. So highly recommend. Something else that we covered over there, but I just loved it so much, is the Lower Etna's album Pine. It's a collection of fictional stories about queers and the Pine Barrens. So it's perfect. It's perfect. And
wait, what's it called again?
The album is called Pine. So like Pine Barrens, but also pining. And
Pine
it's
by who?
The Lower Etna, Aetna, which is the name of a lake in the Barrens in Medford Lakes. And Dylan Gallimore, who's like the front person and like the principal songwriter of that band, is just lovely. And we had like a 2-part interview with him over there that I think you can still find. That album is beautiful, and I love it very much. This is an album that doesn't need any help from me, but Bleacher's self-titled album this year I loved. It's a party album, but it's also it's Bleacher, so it's like party or but also really melancholy. I think it's great. Also, shout out to rhyming "fuck Balenciaga" with "right past the Wawa." So that's
that's
high level.
Yeah, that alone. Really, forget the album as a shout out here. It's really that little couplet that.
It's pretty incredible.
Then, I have it in my hand. I don't know why, we're not really a video podcast, but Merriment, which is a graphic novel by Joe Steiner and Marissa Paternoster. Joe owns Don Giovanni Records. Marissa was a front person for one of my favorite bands ever, Screaming Females, and she's got her project Now, which is also great. It's just a weird, dark little story about 30-somethings in across like bridge and tunnel, like Jersey and New York. It's really weird, kind of sad. It's Marissa's a really talented artist, a really weird artist, and it's like the most of her art I've ever seen collected anywhere. So, and Joe's great as well. So yeah, I know we said rapid fire, but again, I feel like 3 girls from Jersey. I don't know how rapid
no
fire.
Such thing.
More like yapid fire.
Okay, Fozzie. There we go.
I can't hear it. I don't have it in my ears. If that was very loud, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
It was perfectly loud for me because I always talk loud, so I need loud sounds to balance me out.
Okay, great. Okay, so now we're gonna get into our gold star. Here it is. Here's what we loved most in 2024. Who wants to start?
Why don't we have our guest start?
Oh, lovely. Yeah, I can do that.
What you got?
Shalom. Not for the film, but for one important component of the film, Mr. Denzel Washington in Gladiator II.
Oh.
When I say, if you have not seen this movie yet, watch it immediately with your lens just trained on what Denzel is doing in any given scene. If he is in the background, if you only see his little robe swishing, just pay attention to him. Everything else is fine. Paul Mescal's thighs will always be there, I'm sure. Like a fine, to me, everybody I know is like, this is the worst movie I've ever seen. I'm like, did you see Denzel Washington? The man is playing Sir Hiss from the cartoon Robin Hood, where like...
You don't need to say from the cartoon Robin Hood.
Okay, I
know Sir Hiss.
Okay, listen, some people are not the type who like keep this in their memory tanks. Apparently more people than I thought because of how big the Muppet thing took off. But like the animated Robin Hood where like the internet girls want to fuck the fox, like that.
Oh,
Robin
we're
Hood.
all familiar.
Okay, yeah. Denzel put those rings on, put that little tunic on, strapped on some sandals, and went crazy in this role. He's doing Spike Lee, like as Spike Lee. Like when you see Spike Lee on a red carpet dressed like fucking Wario, and you're like, you know, with the hat, and like he's walking around like, not my cup of tea, and he's like bouncing around like a doofus. I love Spike Lee. This is what Denzel Washington is bringing to Gladiator 2. It is some of the most fun I've ever seen someone have in a film.
That's so cool because he's obviously like a legend and I love him, but I don't think of him.
Actor, yes.
Yeah, but I don't think of him as fun necessarily. So that's really cool to...
I cannot recommend this performance enough. And I have seen him do some fine, like mediocre movies where he was like, okay, I'm just, you know, it's a good director, whatever, it's a paycheck, whatever it is. This is so much better than that. And some people would say it's one of the worst movies he's ever acted in, because I've seen a lot of people come down on this movie. And I'm like, I will buy this on DVD and watch it again just to have some popcorn and watch Denzel play a real housewife. That's what he's doing. He's playing a real housewife. It is exceptional. And I could not get enough of it. I very much wish there was a Macronus prequel with a de-aged Denzel just swanning around in a fine garment
and never know,
wreaking havoc. It should happen. I think you might have fun watching Gladiator 2.
I'll give it a whirl.
I just enjoyed it.
Yeah. All right. Jodie, you want to go next?
Sure. Yeah. From horny to sincere, but also kind of horny. So I'm going to apologize in advance because this is something that I mentioned last year, but I am going to allow myself to mention it again because the last season just aired. And I'm going to keep mentioning it until Andrea fucking watches it. And that is the third and final season of Somebody Somewhere. I have never loved a show. Matt, that's not true. I'm sure I've loved a show more, but I cannot in recent memory think of a show that has been so sweet and heartfelt and also really darkly funny and really queer and really ridiculous.
It just doesn't sound like anything I care about.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, exactly. It's literally, I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but when I had my surgery, my niece came and stayed with me. My niece who's in her 30s. We started watching it and she went through the entire 3 seasons in like a week. It's just so fucking good. And it's only 3 seasons and it's 7 episodes a season and it's half-hour episodes. and it's fucking Bridget Everett, who is the type of person we never get to see lead a show.
Her, yeah.
And Jeff Hiller, who is incredible, and just an amazing cast. Murray Hill. Like, I feel like a broken record, but I'm just going to keep saying it until Andrea fucking watches it.
I will. I'm going to.
You say that, but it's just, oh God, there's something about it. She is in her 40s who just lost her sister. And it's about kind of feeling lost and starting over at a time where everyone is supposed to have it together. And it's so relatable, and it's so it's about chosen family, it's about friendship, and how like your person doesn't have to be your romantic partner, it can be a friend. There's just so much there that is so like affirming and lovely. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that show, I don't know how to even say it. It feels like a way of making TV that is so singular to the vision of like one or two people, and one of those people being Bridget Everett, who I adore. So could not recommend it more.
I'm not watching it on purpose. It's just, I have to be in a place and time to start anything new. That's just something that is, but I will watch it. Okay, I'm up.
Your turn. Yeah.
So like I said, I haven't watched a ton this year, and that we didn't already cover. But I was going through a list of like the top movies of 2024 to try to remind myself what I'd seen. And something popped up that it has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes that I hadn't even heard of. And I wasn't sure how I hadn't heard of it. It's called Leroy, Texas. It was written and produced by Shane Atkinson. And the thing that really got me is, so I've been watching Silo. Jodie and I have talked about it a little bit. We haven't covered this season at all because we both are kind of conflicted about it. Mm-hmm. But one of the bright spots in it has been Steve Zahn.
Yeah.
Who I have always loved.
He's great.
I just think he's such a delight. And he's one of the leads in this movie. So just literally last week I sat down to watch this movie, and it is, I will say, it's getting so many, rightly so, comparisons to, it feels like somebody who really loves the Coen brothers made a thriller. It's really funny, it's really dry, it's really dark, but it also has some warmth to it. John Magaro plays a guy who gets mistaken for a contract killer, and the person it's supposed to be is Dylan Baker, who I love so much.
Fucking king. So much so that my ex-fiance made me last Christmas a custom, those like sweaters and shirts that everybody's making now with like the name and like lightning font and photos. Mm-hmm. My ex-fiance,
you have a Dylan Baker one?
Made me one, a custom of Dylan Baker. Mm-hmm. And I got rid of a lot of the like things we shared together as we were obviously like navigating into the relationship. I'm not getting rid of that.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with him. That's between you and Dylan.
That's between me and Mr. Dylan Baker. Also, like, it's not of this year, but just everyone should watch Todd Solondz Happiness.
I've actually never seen it.
Oh, it's Dylan Baker as a child molester, to the surprise of nobody.
I love him so much, but he just has the face. Like,
resting child molester.
Every character he plays is perfect. He knows exactly who he is. Jodie, he's the truck driver in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, the one whose wife, her first kid came out sideways. Yeah. He's also one of the leads in one of my favorite John Candy movies, Delirious, which someday we will cover, because I am, as Jodie and I have talked about many times, like, I am obsessed with John Candy. I love him so much. So it's Steve Zahn, Dylan Baker, and a bunch of other people who are all fantastic. It's a dark, weird little movie. And I just felt like while I was watching it, like, I'm like, oh, I'm watching a movie. Like, I was really aware of it. In a way that I really liked. So, like I said, it's 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. The critics' reviews are a little more mixed because it is, I hate to say derivative, because I really did enjoy it, but you can just feel where the inspiration came from for this movie. Right. But I think it's really clever and fun. Dylan Baker is a dream in it. Steve Zahn is so Steve in it. And I just
Renaissance will
exactly. And so that's on my list, not because it's one of the only movies I watched, but because I genuinely enjoyed it, and I'm just surprised I haven't heard anything about it.
Yeah, I haven't either.
So yeah, Leroy, Texas.
I'll have to check it out.
Hey, thank you.
And then, so Tara, you're up next.
So I have Fanatical, which is the documentary about the catfishing of Tegan and Sarah. It is such an interesting movie. It's so relevant to these times of the way that we engage in fandom, the way we engage in being able to troll people anonymously and dox people. And the cloud, I mean, I still don't know what the fucking cloud is to this day. Like, I have no idea. I don't really want to know. It's the same thing as blockchain. I'm like, I know this word exists, but I
never tell me. Yeah.
I feel like a better person for not being able to define what the word blockchain or cloud is. But I was watching this documentary, like, with my hands slitted over my eyes, because I'm like, this is horrifying. And it really speaks to not only those terrors of the internet, but also Me Too in a way, because even though Tegan and Sarah are not responsible for this person or people, because this person or people are still out there. Like, they think they know who it is, but they have not been able to really nab them in that way, which is so
wild.
Terrifying. But at least this documentary came out to warn people, like, hey, don't assume this is us.
Right.
It really speaks to the power dynamic of artist and fan, and that dynamic in a queer setting, which has not really been explored too much. Obviously, because people don't want to say, well, queers are predatory. Like, we don't want that. None of us want that. But this is something where someone, and again, this could be, for all we know, the person doing this could be a straight woman, could be a man. We have no, likely it's a woman and a queer woman who's in this fandom. But these exchanges were either extremely personal or sexual. They luckily were not financial. And I think whoever is doing this smartly realizes that financial wouldn't really make sense. People wouldn't be so susceptible to give Tegan and Sarah money. Like, I already buy your concert tickets and your t-shirts and shit. I'm giving you money. Like, I'm streaming your songs. You're getting money from me. But how pernicious this hacker or group of hackers is fascinating. And it's something that I would show not only to adults to be like, hey, this is the new water cooler documentary we should all watch, but like, I would show this to a 13-year-old and be like, hey, I really want you to be smart about this.
Yeah.
And especially if you're that like isolated young kid, maybe queer, maybe marginalized in some other way, and you really grasp into fandom because you feel found in that, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But we always say now that, like, and I'm sure you guys have this because you're very online, you're internet people, you know, our moms probably, if I said I was going to meet up with Andrea and I was like, oh, like, how'd you meet? And like, oh, the internet. My mom would be like, okay, is she real? Is she like a 36-year-old guy named Spike with like a neck tattoo? Like, how do you know this person is real? Like, our parents still have that worry. And we're all like, oh God, mom, like, come on, everybody I know is from the internet. I can look up their LinkedIn. Like, I know 6 people they know on Instagram. But in this case, these are smart, you know, online queer women and non-binary folks who fell for this over years of their lives. And that danger is still out there. I think as long as people want to spin these stories and these relationships for their own harmful gain.
Yeah.
But a really timely piece of commentary. Something they talk about in the documentary is that Tegan, because they only ever impersonated Tegan, not Sarah, and they don't know why. But I don't know enough about the band to know why people thought Tegan would be the better like lore. Maybe just Tegan's relationship with the fans or whatever. But it just was really harrowing. It was hard to see. And Tegan really didn't want to make the documentary because this is such an embarrassing thing to have to talk about. Like, people used me and and hacks on my computer to get demos so they could send my demos to fans to think that like I was letting these fans in on secrets. But she came to the conclusion that she had to do this to put a stop to it, and has to, in this documentary, contend with how to take accountability for something she didn't do, but was made the avatar of. Because there are people now who were fooled by fake Tegan, or as they call her in the documentary, Fegan, the Fegan character, where these women who were harmed by Fegan can't really engage with Tegan and Sarah in the same way, because that music is painful to hear. They feel, they were told that they were having some kind of social relationship with Tegan. So to hear a Tegan and Sarah song, it's like triggering.
Right. And I'm not a psychologist, but my guess is your brain can't really understand once it learns that was faked. You can't unfix what's in your brain that made you that built those connections with Tegan and with the band. Like, that's a lot of work that has to be done there to like rewire that.
And you then have to retreat from this fandom. And also, while you're in this relationship with Tegan, or, you know, this quote unquote relationship with Fegan, you also are kind of pulled from the fandom because you're made to be this exceptional secret.
Right.
You're the exceptional one getting to hear the demos and seeing, you know, I guess whatever was on the cloud photos were taken and sent to these catfish people to be like, so you're getting these secret things, but then you don't want to ruin that relationship by telling people. So then you're made to carry the secret. And then when it falls apart, you have to get past the shame to be able to name it. But it was so nuanced into things that you really only know about if you're super online. So this might not be the most easy access documentary for someone like my mom. You know, my mom would be like, what's the deal? Like, I don't get all this. But to us, as people who have seen people be catfished or doxxed or violated and swindled in some way online, you know, it just, I don't know. It was very, very nuanced. It felt so relevant for the times. I didn't know this event had happened, so I came in totally unaware, except for knowing that the band exists. But I really recommend it. There were a lot of times where my mouth just popped open. I was like, holy shit, there might be more of these people. And like, and again, I think the most interesting thing, which is unfair, but how do you get out of it? It's like sticky, is how Tegan and Sarah are supposed to take accountability from people who want accountability from them, but they didn't do the harm. And Tegan and Sarah are the only ones right now who can take accountability because the Fegan has not been captured.
Yeah.
It's just, it leaves a lot of questions. Like, you don't come away with a nice tidy, like, oh, and then they caught the guy. But what a piece of media for this year. I really recommend it.
It's been on my list for a while. I actually I was flipping through today and was like, oh wait, that's right. I wanted to watch that. So for my second pick of the year, this is something I would not normally have watched on my own, but as I've mentioned before, I'm a big listener to the Ringer podcasts, specifically The Watch and Prestige TV. And they recommended Ripley, which is, another adaptation of the Patricia Highsmith novel, The Talented Mr. Ripley, of the, Matt Damon movie fame, Jude Law. But this is an adaptation with Andrew Scott, who I adore, period, end of story. There was a lot of questions about him being cast in this role because he's older than the, character in the book. The face acting in this, his face is doing amazing things. But to me, the other thing about it is it's shot in black and white. And often that to me is like, okay, kind of feels like a gimmick. But I'm a visual person. I'm a photographer. I feel like you could clip any single frame of this movie and it would be a piece of art. It is so beautifully edited. And it's just, I don't know. It doesn't feel like black and white for black and white's sake. It feels like the director and the DP were like, oh no, we can do this well. And we're going to do it like there's a scene with a cat in it that is like the best cat acting I've seen in a long time as well. Like it's not a topic or a piece of IP that I'm like, ooh, Ripley, cool. But like, it's just so beautifully done. And I really, really loved it. Yeah, it was just so good. Andrew Scott, I'll watch him in anything. But he's so incredibly sinister in this. Mm-hmm. And the last thing I had seen him in, like in any like great detail, like something I'd watched a lot of, was Fleabag. And so it was like going from sweet hot priest to a like really insecure, devious, like murderer.
Did you watch Sherlock? I know everybody, we've got feelings.
I was going to ask this same question.
Yeah, I watched Sherlock, but I watched it a long time ago.
Perfect in that.
Yeah, no, I watched Sherlock, but it feels like 100 years ago.
Yeah.
I was with my ex then, and that is 100 years ago. So, yeah.
Yeah, that man's got the range.
Yeah, he does.
I'm wondering now, like, because I do remember his Moriarty. I'm going to watch Ripley and see
14 years
where...
ago.
Yeah, like where that, not 14 years ago. Are you kidding me?
That's why I said it was a million years ago.
No.
Isn't that crazy?
I was in grad school and I was engaged to a person that I am no longer engaged to. So, long time
14
ago.
years ago is hard to hear.
Mm-hmm.
God damn. But yeah, I'm going to watch Ripley because I do love Andrew Scott as well. And even though I call him Adam Scott a lot, which is a different man.
Very different man.
That I also love, and who's I love watching, and who also is good at playing extremely charming or the most evil man you've ever encountered. Adam Scott is in Sleeping with Other People, which is my favorite movie of all time, and he plays.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
It's a Leslie Headland movie with Jason Sudeikis and Alison Brie. It's a rom-com, but it's like very realistic. It's very
love all of those people
flawed and fucked up. It's like Fleabag. It feels like a Fleabag type rom-com where it's not like, and then they do kiss at the end and it fades to black. But anyway, so I will watch wondering like how his Moriarty compares to his Ripley.
So I would say that his Moriarty is camp is a word that's thrown around too much, but it's a little bit
I get it.
It's a little on the camp side. This is one of the most subtle performances of evil I've like ever seen. It's really, really good.
I love a more sinister.
Yeah. The director won for best directing for a limited series.
What?
Yeah.
Good for him.
Same for cinematography. Same for sound and visual effects. So like,
wow.
Yeah. Okay. All the things that I loved about it. I mean, Andrew Scott didn't win for best actor, but everyone else kind of picked up something. Dakota Fanning's in it.
Right.
It's really, really good.
All right. I'm ready.
Nice. Okay. Andrea.
On my list. All right. My next one is, this is a weird little one. I'm recommending an EP by a artist. He's one guy. I'm almost positive he's one guy. He goes by Bike Routes or Bike Roots. It's a South Jersey artist. He only has like 2,500 followers on Instagram. He should have 1 billion more. He's like played shows with people like Hawthorne Heights and Hello Goodbye. He is 100% for fans of like the Wonder Years and Carly Cosgrove and Signals Midwest.
Carly Cosgrove. Yeah. Oh my god.
So I'm gonna play a little bit. They're incredible. So if you like any and all of those, the song I really want you guys to hear that has been on absolute repeat is called World Apart. The EP is produced and mixed by Zach Tooch. I actually don't know how to say his last name. And all the songs are written by David Osterhout. When you hear this, it sounds like there should be a whole fucking team behind it. I can't believe how well produced this is. I'm going to play through the first chorus. It's called World Apart. 2,500 followers on Instagram. That song is radio fucking ready.
Yeah.
I think it's incredible. But yeah, I think it's so catchy. It sounds so polished. He's got other music. He's been making music for a few years, which is also great. But I just think this EP is such a perfect little, like, ready to go collection of songs. It's 6 songs. They're all great. I'll obviously link to everything we've talked about in the episode notes.
Yes, please. Because you and I apparently have a very compatible music taste.
So yeah,
if you're bringing up Carly Cosgrove on a podcast, I'm like, oh, we're going to shows together. Okay, great. I love this for us. I'll pick you up in my Hyundai Elantra and we'll go.
Perfect. I can't wait.
Amazing.
I love Carly Cosgrove. And yeah, Bike Routes, I miss having a music podcast because I have no excuse to talk about music on podcasts anymore. So I was happy to have an excuse to talk about them because I am excited to see where they go. Yeah, so also that line, someone to look at me the way my father looks at, and you think the line should be my mom, the way my father looks. I just want someone to look at me the way my father looks at my mother. But he says nature which is so dad. It's just so dad. Like that line is so specific. And anyway, that's Bike Routes or Roots. Tara, you're up next. I'll bet you know how to say the next thing on your list. I'll bet you know exactly how to say it.
I probably don't. I just watched Baby Girl at like 3 a.m. on Christmas morning because I happen to have a screener of it. And holy shit. I don't know if it's because, I spent all Christmas Eve and Christmas Day in bed, phone on Do Not Disturb, watching screeners of all the movies that came out this year. Mm-hmm. And I think Baby Girl was the one where I was like, okay, it's like 3 a.m. The lights are off. My phone is down. Nobody's bothering me. I don't have to check in and like call my parents. Like, I don't know if it's just that I really got to pay attention to that one of the like 5 movies I watched that day, but I loved it. Something that, not to get like too personal, but something that I've navigated or experienced or seen in relationships where some kind of power play is brought into the intimate space is like the awkwardness and the negotiation, and whoever the submissive person is like, wait, I kind of don't want to be told what to do. The sort of negotiating tactics of this, and Nicole Kidman's character, I mean, this is openly the plot. I'm not really spoiling anything here. Her being like this successful CEO, but really she wants to be submissive. And that's, what she discovers in the movie.
Tale as old as time.
Yeah. But the way that she's not just like, oh, I love this immediately. She's very like, why do you want me to crawl on the floor? Like it actually is very realistic. And I've had men who wanted to put me in that position. And that's why I say like, this is from my personal experience. I've had guys who were, armchair dominance, let's just say, and they don't really know how to do it. They just want to take out their mommy issues on a woman and think that like doing whatever they want is being dominant, as opposed to like rules that are kind of followed in this play. And I've had guys like, oh, you should do this. And I'm like, for what reason?
Right.
Like, I'm like, why do you want that? Like, it didn't make sense. And I love that this movie did not shy away from like these characters being really awkward and trying to figure this out. And there's a scene in New Girl where Nick and Jess are dealing with sexual frustration. This is in season 2. They're like developing their relationship or they're kind of caving into the tension that they have. And Nick and Jess are fighting and he's like, just take off your clothes. And she's like, I don't know. Why? Should I? And they're like fighting and it's hot because we're all like, oh my God, like, yes, I do want that to happen. But this movie also dealt with that. And it wasn't this perfect, like 50 Shades of Grey, just like, okay, I automatically know what that means.
Right.
And I loved that. The soundtrack was incredible. There is a moment where George Michael's father figure is used during the movie. And let me tell you, I burst out laughing to the point where I triggered like a coughing fit. I could not stop laughing. I was like, this is so fucking stupid and on the nose. But at the same time, I wasn't expecting it. And it wasn't played for a laugh in the way that, certain like The Fall Guy, which I loved this year. I love that movie. I saw it twice in theaters, The Fall Guy. And they drop in musical cues for a laugh. It's like, okay, this would be a funny thing to play over a fight. Like Deadpool does the same thing. This is not that, but it was so funny. And they were just like, yeah, we know we're making you crack up, but we're not going to like turn and wink to you.
Right.
So much milk though. So if you are lactose intolerant, you probably should take a Lactaid before watching Baby
You
Girl.
had asked me to predict what the next sentence you were going to say was.
Yeah.
I think I would have needed 5,000 at least before I would have gotten to so much milk though.
So much milk. An excessive amount of milk for me as someone who has not had a glass of dairy milk in like 15 years because as a kid, they thought I was going to need to have part of my colon removed and have an ostomy bag stuck in. And in fact, it's just that I ate too many cream cheese and jelly sandwiches and just had typical regular IBS. So watching Nicole Kidman drink a lot, like a full glass of milk, I was like,
that's stomach turning.
You don't see much of that anymore.
I'm going to have like a sympathy shit having watched this movie. And, but I mean, great movie. The director, Helena Rain, I don't know if I'm saying her last name correctly. This was my first experience watching one of her films. I love that Nicole Kidman is very much walks the walk when she says, I'm going to work with women directors. And then she does. And she makes interesting content. Nicole Kidman is almost underrated as an actor because she does everything. She's doing that show. I think it's called Lioness. It's like some fucking Homeland procedural with Zoe Saldana. And like, then she's doing this, which is a kink drama and sort of something like a Adrian Lyne, like not Cruel Intentions. Oh my God, I can't believe it's like Fatal Attraction. Yeah. Like she's really Cruel Intentions by Adrian. That would have been good though. If he did that. With like Michael Douglas, like 40 years before Michael Douglas, because the age is one
it's like a cut.
Would have been really interesting, like Mickey Rourke.
Cruel Intentions still has one of the best. I don't give a shit. The ending of that movie is
come on, with the fucking necklace. It's perfect.
It's so good.
The necklace and the convertible.
It's crying over Colorblind because that's still so good.
No, it's good. That's a good movie. We're not going to slander Cruel Intentions.
No, not on this podcast.
In this or any house.
Thank you. This podcast.
Like Dikembe Mutombo, like nothing.
Exactly.
But yeah, Baby Girl, I really found interesting. I found it to be realistic in some ways, like great movie. I don't know if it's like out yet or if it comes out on Christmas. I got to watch it early, thank you to my Screeners account, but really, really interesting, looked great, had unexpected flourishes. There's a Robin needle drop, which to me instantly gives a movie 4 stars.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it came out yesterday.
Robin. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I recommend it. Like, don't take like your mother, don't take like your roommate that you have sexual tension with, like,
or maybe do,
or if you want to jump that gun, yes. But, certainly something awkward where like, if you were to take your mother, you would have to explain a couple things.
Right.
And, that's my pick. Baby Girl is my pick.
I love this because I'm adding things to my list that I haven't seen yet. So
I'm adding a bunch of music recs to my list. I want to watch Chasing Amy.
Oh,
sure. So good.
It's so good. Watch it and then you can listen to us talk to Savin and basically just gush and be ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm down. I'm ready.
So good.
It's fantastic. I think you're next, Jodie.
I'm laughing because me recommending this in a Zoom with Andrea is like Andrea recommending to me like a photo book. So I'm a photographer and I teach photography. RIP New Jersey's the World was paying for that Patreon for a couple of years. And so I took a little bit of that little bit of money and started watching and paying for Dropout.
Oh, of course.
So
it's the best.
So I'm not going to just recommend Dropout though, because it's like an entire network. I'm going to recommend a specific episode of a specific show, though. For
folks who don't know what Dropout is, it was born from College Humor Days. It's a streaming service. Their like anchor show is probably Dimension 20, which is an actual play D&D style podcast. But then they also do a ton of like improv and interview style shows. It's only $6 a month, and they encourage sharing your password with other people.
Yeah. So I recommend it in general, but as someone who, you know, has loved improv since my 20s and went to UCB all the time, did the $5 ASCAT shows on Sunday nights, like it was a big part of my life for a long time. And I am not a comedy person. I'm just an appreciator of comedy. I don't think of myself as like, you know, in that world. I just like watching it. So anyway, my recommendation is, if you are relatively new to the sort of universe of Dropout, to me, a good way in is season 6 of Game Changer. It's the most recent season. And the only reason I say season 6 is because the 2-part finale of season 6, called Ratfish, is the hardest I have laughed out loud in my apartment in a very long time. It is basically a mock version of The Circle, which is a show I never watched, but you don't really need to. It's, you know what the idea is, right? They're trying to guess who each other is. And so they all have to put on these like false personas. Andrew, I'm sure you've seen it, but
Bug with a big ass.
Yeah, Bug with a big ass and Grandma Sweetie. It's so... The reason I say watch season 6 is because it helps a lot if you know some of these people a bit before watching the finale. And the seasons aren't that long. So like you could start with season 6, episode 1, and then watch through to the 2-part finale, which is Ratfish, and get just the best laugh. Like, we've talked about this before, Andrea, the idea of laughing out loud by yourself at home. It's hard to do.
Yeah.
Like, I watch a lot of stand-up, and like, even if I think it's really funny, it takes a lot for it to actually like vocally come out of me as an out loud laugh. And I scared the cat yesterday when I was watching that, because she was on the couch with me and I like guffawed and she jumped. So that is my recommendation. It is $6 a month for Dropout, no ads, and start, if you are like me, someone who loves comedy, but like is not really a D&D person, not really a fantasy person, start with Game Changer or make some noise, but specifically Game Changer season 6, so you can watch Ratfish. That is my recommendation.
Game Changer is like a perfect show. It's an infinite rewatch. It's just so much joy have I gotten from Dropout. I could have just done a list of specific Dropout episodes. Also, VIP Very Important People is an interview style show where an improviser is put into a costume, really elaborate makeup, but they don't get to see themselves until right before the episode starts, and they have to make up a character. And then Vic Michaelis, who is one of the funniest improvisers and comedians like on the planet right now, interviews them, and it's some of the hardest I've ever laughed is on that show. So hard recommend for Dropout.
Yeah.
It's impressive if something makes you do more than just the smirk.
Yeah,
exactly. If they're just like, huh.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I do the smirk a lot at home. And it takes a lot for me to burst out laughing.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. And I did multiple times with this 2-part Ratfish finale. Okay. Specifically, what is Zach's last name?
Zach Oyama?
Yeah, Zach Oyama.
Love of my life.
As Grandma Sweetie is one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
His Very Important People episode is also perfect.
Yeah. So that is my third.
Oh yeah. I'm next, right? Yeah. No,
yes.
I'm so Tara's next.
No,
right?
You're next.
Oh,
I think you're next.
It's hard to be a producer and a host at the same time.
I'm sure.
I'm recommending my favorite book of the year, written by my probably favorite person on the planet. He can do truly no wrong in my eyes. Hanif Abdurraqib. He's a poet and a culture critic, and he's just the most perfect writer and person on the planet. I am in love and obsessed. He's never done anything wrong. I found him first because he would write about Fall Out Boy for MTV, but he is like, there's nobody writing better about things like grief and memory and loss and longing. He's have I mentioned perfect? He's just perfect.
I just laughed because he came up last year too.
What did he do?
It wasn't us. It was you had recommended a. Oh shit! I wrote it down.
He really is like my favorite. Like not even of people, like of people I know or don't know. A man I have never met.
Yeah,
like,
you had recommended a book about by something like writers on gaming or something, and he was one of the people.
He's got an essay in. Yeah. That's a fun little book. There's always this year though is his book from 2024. Its full title is There's Always This Year on Basketball and Ascension. I don't care about basketball, but Hanif can write about anything and make it worth hearing. I'm actually gonna read a review about the book, and then I'm gonna read just the first little paragraph. So Ross Gay, who is he's a poet who I absolutely love, writes, Hanif Abdurraqib again shows us new ways to be a social critic, a dreamer, a historian, and a lover of hoop. But, and this feels especially moving, he shows us how he wonders about and how he is transformed in the wondering about what it means to belong to a place. And by place, I mean the people, the memories, the sorrows, the tomorrows who are that place. And by all that I mean the love. How Ross Gay is also incredible.
Yeah.
Like that's a review that gives me goosebumps. But I feel like I shouldn't be allowed to read his words out loud because he's such a beautiful writer, and who do I think I am? But to talk about our enemies is also to talk about our beloveds, to take a windowless room and paint a single window through which the width and breadth of affection can be observed. To walk to that window together, if you will allow it, and to say to each other, how could anyone cast any ill on this? And we will know then collectively that anyone who does is one of our enemies. And so I've already led us astray. You will surely forgive me if I promised we would talk about our enemies, when what I meant was that I want to begin this brief time we have together by talking about love. And you will surely forgive me if an enemy stumbles their way into the architecture of affection from time to time. It is inevitable after all. 2 more lines. But we know our enemies by how foolishly they trample upon what we know as affection, how quickly they find another language for what they cannot translate as love. That's the first page of this fucking book. He's just...
Yeah.
There's nobody doing it better than Hanif Abdurraqib.
Beast mode.
Truly just... He also has the best Instagram because he has a dog he's obsessed with.
Yeah.
And he lives in a beautiful house, and he just is perfect.
Amazing.
That's Hanif Abdurraqib.
Cool.
Is that it? Did we do it?
I mean, that was 3 for each of us.
That was 3 for each of us.
2 hours. Does anybody have any that they'd be heartbroken if they didn't share?
I should recommend, and I don't know if I can recommend the full movie because a lot of people are like, ew, Marvel movies or ew, Deadpool movies. But when Channing Tatum, my beloved Chance Tate, showed up as Gambit in Deadpool and Wolverine, did I cry? A little bit. I did. It was so important to me because I once heard that there was an attempt being made to bring Channing Tatum to the screen as Gambit, a Creole man with playing cards. And I said, that's for me. That is for me. Like, I pictured Channing Tatum just saying, like, my name is Jeff in a Creole accent.
Right.
And throwing out a little playing card, and it never happened. And then in this film, this Ryan Reynolds produced film, it did happen, and it was better than I expected because there was a costume involved, and the accent was better and worse than I imagined. It was both over prepared and understudied, and delivered in the most perfect way. And if I never get that experience to watch a full-length Channing Tatum Gambit movie starring Channing Tatum, and I don't know who they're going to put in there. They're either going to put in like a Paul Giamatti or like a Camilla Cabello in a suit. Like they never really know who to put next to that person and make it perfectly right. Although Paul Giamatti would be perfectly right in anything. But
correct.
I got my moment of Gambit. And
That's
it was everything to me. And will I buy the DVD just so I can watch that one part of the Gambit supercut? I will. And it felt good for my soul.
I'm really glad you got to have that.
Yeah. In the worst year of my life,
At
God
least
delivered to me Channing Tatum as Gambit. And I did feel peace in that one moment. Yeah. It's important to say.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm
Thank
glad
you so much.
that you did take time to honor that. And that
I take time to honor that each and every day. It is part of my prayers. But yeah, I did need to shout it out and remind you all that you can easily watch Channing Tatum as Gambit. And then you might be inspired to watch Jump Street's 21 and 22 and enjoy more of the cinematic fineness of Mr. Channing Tatum. And
I do think he's delightful. Like, genuinely delightful, that guy.
Delightful, delicious, and lovely. I love Channing Tatum. And I don't even really love him in a sexual way, but it's that tweet of like, we once picked apples at Papa's Orchard. Like, it's that. I'm like, I feel like I know you, Channing Tatum. And we would be best friends and have a whale of a time together. But not in a sexual way, just in two dudes.
Yeah.
What's better than this, guys being dudes?
That's the third thing on your vision board.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a pile of money.
Yes. Yeah.
That nice man with the little mouth who I like
Glenn
very
Powell,
much.
Who has a very small mouth. You're so right. As you notice, I have a giant fucking mouth because I don't shut up. So it'll
balance out. Yeah.
Large subsumes the small, like a twin in utero. It'll be fine.
It'll be beautiful. And then
something powerful will emerge, like Elvis.
That's beautiful. And then you and Channing Tatum frolicking through a field together.
Being
platonic best friends.
Two little dudes.
That's exactly right.
Glenn Powell, bless his heart, is so secure in his self, his masculinity. He's not jealous. He doesn't feel threatened. He's not suspicious. He joins us, in fact, and we all have a great time.
That's lovely. I really do. I wish that for you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I wish that for you too, if that's what your heart calls you to do.
Right. My equivalent of that. Yeah.
Yes.
I hope that 2025 brings that to you.
Thank you.
Anything else you might be anticipating? For example?
For me finally writing the essay on Lisa Frankenstein that I want to write.
Hell yeah.
There we go.
I'm hoping that I finally have the balls to sit down and do it.
I'm anticipating that. You're putting it here on the record.
I am. Yeah, if I say it here, then I need to do it.
And we'll check back in with you at the end of the year.
That's why I wrote that Never Been Kissed essay, because I said it on Sarah's podcast and I was like, shit, I got to write this.
Yeah, I got to do it.
And then I did. So now I'm saying it on yours.
I love that. Hell yeah.
Got to put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
I am looking forward to two things. One, the movie Nickel Boys, which is Ramel Ross, a local, to me, amazing filmmaker, photographer, artist who I have met, though I doubt he remembers it. I've been a fan of his work since seeing his photographs from Hale County. And from all accounts, this is a masterpiece that he's created. I cannot wait to watch it. The other thing that I just remembered is coming soon, which makes me very excited, is Ariana Rebellini is a writer in New York who I met at a residency last year, and her book Better, which is a memoir about suicide, is just to get us on the cheerful side of things. But
my depressed ass can never be brought down. I'm always feeling it out at all times. So you're safe.
She from this little excerpt of it she read to us, I was really excited to read the rest of it, and that is coming out, I believe, in March, but I could be wrong. I should have that information. Let's see. More info and pre-order April. Yes. So that is Ariana Rebellini, and the book is Better, a memoir about wanting to die. So those are my two looking forward: Nickel Boys and Better.
I also have two. They're both music. Two of my faves. So one is Dikembe. They're a Florida. They describe themselves as an emo/punk band. They're kind of neither. Tara is responding appropriately.
Aggressively. Yeah. Again, this was my era of music. So yes. Yeah.
Dikembe rules. They don't sound like anybody else. I'm such a fan of theirs. No information except they've been posting pictures from the studio, and their Instagram little title says new music coming 2025. So that's all I know, but I am so excited because their last album came out pre-pandemic, like right at the start of the pandemic. And so I'm so excited for new Dikembe. And then the other one is Barty Strange, who's another favorite of mine. Horror comes out February 14th, which is also when Yellow Jackets premiere. So that's a big day for me. 3 singles out so far. They're all fantastic. Sober, I think, is my favorite so far. And I think it's another Jack Antonoff produced that song at least. I don't know that I don't know if he's involved in the whole album or not, but it sounds great so far. Everything I've heard, everything Bartiz does is interesting and aptly strange. So yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to.
Love
Amazing.
that.
All right, I think we did it.
I think we did.
Like I said, I will drop all of the recommendations as links in the episode notes. So go watch some movies and read some books and listen to some music and watch some TV. Go check out and subscribe to Tara's Substack, XOXO Gossip Jean Caspro.
Thank you.
Truly fantastic. Where else can folks find you, Tara?
Sure. I am on, if you haven't tired of my relentless and nonstop chattering, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter. Yes, I'm still on Twitter. No, I won't call it X. I'm at Sweaty Lamar, like Hetty
Which
Lamar.
Is one of the best
Sweaty.
Instagram handles I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And yeah, Substack is taragiancasper.substack.com. That's my kind of pride and joy. I post about the various and sundry of my stupid little life. Lots of photos of my beautiful cat children, which you may enjoy. And I'm trying to do more pop culture and blabbering about things that are not my disastrous personal life. So,
I think it really is right up our listeners' alley, especially the pop culture stuff. I'm a real sucker for using that as a lens to look at any complicated, nuanced situation, and you're really good at doing that. So I hope folks check it out. And yeah, Tara, thank you so much. This was such a joy. We'll have to have you back on.
Finally.
Pick a movie or something, and I'll come on and I'll have watched the movie and I can discuss with you.
Amazing.
That was really fun. I'm glad Tara was able to join us.
Yeah. It really felt like for me,
Jersey.
weirdly being back home.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it.
But we sent her on her way so she didn't have to hear our housekeeping.
Yes.
But we might have her back to talk about a movie or something later in the year. Maybe I think that would be really fun. It seems like she's got a lot in common with us in terms of taste and stuff. So
yeah, 100%. But yeah, so next week we talked about how we're kind of in a weird little in between place right now. We talked about most of the documentaries that we wanted to talk about. And then we have Yellow Jackets coming up in February. And so we've got the month of January where we're kind of like, So we were thinking that it would be fun to go and look at least the pilots of some of the other shows that were recommended to us and to Yellow Jackets fans in general. After season 2 ended and a lot of people were looking for something similar.
Right.
And so we're going to start with that next week. We're going to watch a few, sort of test out a few shows, see if they're things that we would want to keep watching along the Yellow Jackets general vibe.
It is so funny that we started as I've probably said this before. We started as a Yellow Jackets podcast. It's the reason we started podcasting, and it's something we get maybe 10 episodes of every 2 to 3 years.
I know.
The rest of the time
everything else is like, well, let's try some documentaries. Yeah, exactly. But so next week, the reason I wanted to do this one is because A, it was recommended, B, it ended up on a couple of year-end best of lists, and I had never heard of it.
Yeah, I hadn't either.
So it ended up on Ingu Kang's best of list of 2024, and season 3 is coming out I believe next week. And so we're going to start with a show called Evil on Netflix. I feel like this is an Andrea show. I feel like you're really going to like it. I hope I'm right. It is not a Jodie show. And yet I watched 2 full seasons of it. And that could have to do with the fact that I have an arm in a sling and I'm not really going out much, but there's lots of things I could be watching and I stuck with it. So it's sort of oh gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? It is a man of God, man of science, but then there's also woman of psychology and psychiatry added to the mix. It is specifically about
Golden Trio.
It's a little bit of a golden trio.
I love that. I love a golden trio.
Yeah. And it's a group of 3 people that are working for the Catholic Church to determine whether things that are happening to people are like possession or demon infestation or just like environmental toxicity. It's very Yellow Jackets coded in that way. It's like, what is the actual source of it? The actors in it are great. It's one of those things I didn't think I was going to like, and then I just left it on. Also, Michael Emerson's in it. And
I keep forgetting that until you say it, and then I get so excited to watch Michael Emerson.
Yeah, he's the big bad in it. Like, it's so we're gonna just talk about the pilot next week. But it's a little bit of a test to see if I will definitely watch the 3rd season when it comes out, since I've come this far, but to see if it's something that we might want to talk about later, or if it's something that Andrea might watch. Not that she takes my suggestions anyway.
This whole podcast started because of Yellow Jackets. There's one show I haven't watched yet that I'm going to watch. This is so Chris Wilch's mom of you.
Yeah, I know. I can't laugh at her.
It's so the Jersey guilt. The Jersey mom guilt.
Absolutely. But yeah, so that's next week. We'll talk about the show Evil. It is on Netflix. Seasons 1 and 2 are there. Season 3 is coming out, I believe, next week. And if you're a Yellow Jackets person, I feel like this has all of the little it's got a lot of the same questions in it.
I'm glad you got to questions, because I was trying to help you out there, and the only word I could think of was seasoning, and I was like, that can't be the word that she's going for.
Not seasoning. No. Questions. It does have a lot of the same questions. Yeah. So season 3 is coming to Netflix on New Year's Eve.
Oh,
so
perfect. So if you're listening to this the day it comes out, you can watch the first 2 seasons real quick.
Yeah.
And then
start the 3rd.
Pick up season 3.
Yeah. It's the story of forensic psychologist Kristen Bouchard, priest David Acosta, and scientist Ben Shakir. Asif Manvi as the scientist. So, and Michael Emerson is the main villain as Leland Townsend.
Oh, that's a good villain name.
I know. So that's next week.
I'm excited.
Yeah. I think I was watching it thinking like, this is so much more of an Andrea show than a me show. And yet I watched all of it. So
yeah, it's a good sign.
Yeah. Where can they find us?
WatchersPodNJ on Instagram, WatchersPodNJ at Gmail. I'm at AQAndreaQ.
And I am at Jodie_Mim, JODIE_MIM. Hopefully next week I will not sound like a frog.
Oh, thank you for powering through.
You do what you gotta do.
Where will we see folks next week?
Ooh, we will see folks. Oh, that's a great question.
Thank you so much.
So we will see everyone next week in Queens.
Oh, I like Queens.
Me too. I lived there for like 6 years. Okay. Bye.